The dictionary describes a storyline as a plot of a story, drama, or game. Wrestling covers all three of those. It has stories, dramas, and games. There have been a lot of great storylines in the past. Sting versus the NWO, Stone Cold versus Mr. McMahon, Bret Hart versus El Dandy. So without further delay, let's take a look at my list. Number 5, Bret Hart versus America. In 1997, after a great WrestleMania match, Bret Hart and Stone Cold would switch roles, with Hart turning heel and Austin turning face. Bret would become a bitter guy who thought everyone was against him. This feud went from Bret hating Austin to Bret hating America. He started to rant and rave about how things were so much better in Canada than America. This ended up giving us something we hadn't ever seen before, where Bret was a heel in America but loved everywhere else because he was saying what other countries thought about Americans. This story gave us a lot of cool moments. I loved how fans would have signs of Austin, the Legion of Doom, Goldust and Shamrock urinating on the Canadian flag, and the next time they were in Canada, there would be a sign of the Hart Foundation urinating on the American flag. We got that great match at In Your House Canadian Stampede that showcased the Hart Foundation as damn near gods in Canada, and Austin was the ultimate heel being hauled out in handcuffs. I also think Bret did some of his best promo work with him comparing the layout of America to a toilet, and one about how he would bring the members of the Hart Foundation into the gates of hell with him and trust their hearts to pump his blood. We may never get anything like this storyline again, and the Hitman did some of his best work here. Number 4, Batista versus Triple H. Not too many people get one up on the cerebral assassin and the dirtiest player in the game, but Triple H and Ric Flair were no match for the animal Batista. Evolution was the best stable of the Ruthless Aggression era. Triple H, Ric Flair, Randy Orton, and Batista ran Monday Night Raw for years. The game brought Orton and Batista into the fold as the future of wrestling. But when the time came for Triple H to pass the torch, he wasn't ready. Randy Orton won the World Heavyweight title and became the youngest world champion, and right away Triple H turned on him and took the title away from him. When Batista won the Royal Rumble, Triple H had a new worry. He needed to make sure Batista challenged WWE Champion JBL at WrestleMania. Someone tried to run over Batista with JBL's limo, and Batista even showed up on a SmackDown pay-per-view to confront the wrestling god. Triple H was breathing easy, thinking Batista wasn't coming after him. But Batista overheard Triple H and Flair talking about how they set him up. This led to a great moment on Raw, where Batista gave Triple H the thumbs down and let the world know he was coming after the game at WrestleMania. Batista would defeat Triple H at WrestleMania 21, and Triple H wouldn't hold a world title for over 2 years. Triple H used to say, "I am the game, and you don't want to play me," and Batista said, "Game on." Number 3, Randy Orton versus Triple H. Randy Orton, in 2009, became one of the best heels ever seen in the wrestling business. He did all the things that make a great villain. He assaulted the elderly, beat up women, punted people in the head, and then blamed it on mental illness so he couldn't get fired. He attacked Vince McMahon and kicked him in the head, and then went on to win the Royal Rumble. He threatened to sue WWE if they fired him because he was entitled to the main event of WrestleMania. After beating Shane McMahon in a match, he would hit Stephanie McMahon with an RKO. This was how he drew the attention of Triple H. This feud made for great TV, as at one time Triple H was handcuffed to the ropes and watched Orton attack Stephanie again and then kiss her. Later on, Triple H would show up to the home of Randy Orton and beat him all over his own house and throw him through a picture window. These two would main event WrestleMania 25, and I think that it is a highly underrated match. Go back and watch this feud and see Orton reach Roddy Piper levels of hate and then blame everyone else for the messed up stuff he does. It's great. Number 2, Eddie Guerrero versus Rey Mysterio. At Halloween Havoc 1997, these two would have what I consider to be the best match in WCW history. In 2005, they would reignite that feud. Things started off friendly and respectful, and by the end we would see one of the most absurd things to happen in wrestling. In 2005, Eddie and Rey were WWE Tag Team Champions and decided to have a friendly contest to see who was better at WrestleMania 21. They put on a great match, and in the end it was Rey that came out on top. All seemed to be good between the partners, but in the weeks to follow they had several miscommunications, and ultimately this led to Eddie to snap. He would attack Rey, and they would have another match, and again Eddie would lose. Eddie would threaten to expose a family secret that could hurt Rey. So again they had another match, and again Rey won. Because of that victory, Eddie was supposed to keep the secret, but Eddie was going crazy and decided to tell the world. Rey's son Dominic actually was the son of Eddie Guerrero. Eddie would come out on TV and read creepy bedtime stories. Clearly there was only one way to settle this, and it was to hang a briefcase with the custody rights of Dominic above the ring, and whoever climbed a ladder and got it would be his dad. I love the fact that Child Services, a court of law, and a judge decided the only way to settle this matter was in a ladder match. Only in professional wrestling could something like this happen, and the fans would be like, sounds good to me. No wonder Dom turned bad and became the most dangerous convict, Dirty Dom. Number 1, Macho Man vs. Hulk Hogan. I have been a Hulkamaniac my whole life. Hulk Hogan will always be my favorite wrestler. The Mega Powers saga is the best storyline of both Macho Man and Hogan's careers, and the best storyline WWE ever did, in my opinion anyway. When Macho Man and the Hulkster linked up and formed the Mega Powers, it was the greatest duo ever. Better than Jordan and Pippen, Brady and Belichick, and John Daly and alcohol. This storyline started at WrestleMania 4 and went to WrestleMania 5. I think that's why it's so great, as WWE didn't rush it. A lot like Sting versus the NWO, they let the story unfold. The madness and the mania ran wild on the entire WWE, but slowly you started to see cracks forming. On the main event, during a big tag match against the Twin Towers, Hogan would leave Macho alone to check on an injured Miss Elizabeth, and this is when it all came crashing down and hurt inside. Savage would attack Hogan, and the War of the Mega Powers had begun. Savage would cut probably the best promo of his life in the build-up to WrestleMania 5. He would call Hogan out for his hot dogging and grandstanding and for having lust in his eyes. Savage was blind with rage and delusion. He accused Hogan of being jealous when it would appear Savage was jealous. What made it great is some of the things Savage said were true. Hogan did seem to care about Miss Elizabeth more than the tag team. After a great match at WrestleMania 5, it would be Hogan posing with the WWE title, and the reign of the Mega Powers was over. No one knew if the madness and the mania could work together, and while it did for a little bit, in the end, the two powers were too great, and they exploded. Well, there you have it, my list of favorite wrestling storylines. Let us know in the comments what some of your favorite storylines are. Also, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more great wrestling content.